Hey everybody, welcome back to another Krita, I guess a tutorial, something like that, but a Krita video, kind of talking about how I made my first comic in Krita and just the whole process. This will be like a short series, and it's not going to be like a how-to, but more how I approached it and like what I would do differently, what I did enjoy doing in Krita and what I wasn't too happy with. Things like that. So yeah, let's get into it. So before I get into too much with what I did in Krita, I kind of want to go back to the beginning, which is like the story script. So I went with a little more unconventional script style, which is more film script. A comic script is more laid out by page and by panel. So if I had done this like how a lot of comic creators do it, it would be like, oh, this is page 1, and then in this panel this is what happened with the dialogue and everything else, and then go from there. I didn't want to do that because I felt that I would get too stuck in what was happening in that panel. And in my research, people who are artists and the writer kind of do it a little bit more loosely, which is more similar to a film script like this. And it's really just the rough layout. This I wouldn't say is the easy, well, it's easy for me because I can just focus on what the story is, but it was a little more difficult when I went to go do the page layouts. And I think that has more to do with experience than it does with the approach that I chose. So I was using Arc Studio, the free version for this, and I've actually been enjoying it a lot. It's pretty simple. It has a dark mode, which I really, really appreciate, and I am actually thinking about getting the full version just because it has some extra features I would appreciate having, and honestly, it was very simple to use. So that's how I started with the main approach with this, and from here I just kept revising as needed. You can see like things in orange were things I was changing or removed. Like here you can see a lot of this was removed. So this went through a lot of revisions. It's interesting because this is technically 7 pages, but when I went to actually make the comic, I changed that. And that's fine, not a big deal. So let's go back to Krita, and I'll show you what I did after the initial script. I had a small sketchbook, which is like a small booklet sketchbook, and I just started thumbnailing everything in there for the layouts, trying to play with some stuff. These look nothing like the final actual pages, and that's kind of like for better and for worse, I guess. There are a couple things I kind of wish I had done a little differently. I think I focused a little too much. I don't know, I was overthinking a lot of this, just so much in the beginning. But yeah, I did really small thumbnails. These are probably like an inch tall. These are very small. And then I just kind of notated like this is page 1, page 2, and then I scanned those in and cropped them down. And this is basically the whole book here. You're not going to see any spoilers really because you can't really see anything, so that's fine, especially for the intro part. I did keep the page count pretty much the same. What is this, 30? Oh, I see, page 1. Yeah, so actually no, I included maybe about 8 more pages than the initial thumbnails, which is fine because the story needed it. And I am glad that I was open to adding more pages. Some pages were just simply replaced versus adding on. So yeah, it was a lot of work to do these thumbnails. Now, when I got these thumbnails done, or at least in a spot where I know what I at least want to happen on that page, I just kind of threw these into Krita and I enlarged them to just kind of fit, have like a rough fit here. I'm just gonna see here. So the green is the safe zone and the red's like the cut zone. So I don't want anything to go outside the red if I want it to be shown. So once I started doing that, that's kind of where I kind of noticed a few things in Krita that probably would have done differently. One of those, besides using the comic manager, when I made my template page to work off of, for some reason Krita won't like you do a 8.8, it was like 0.85 or something, some weird number that the template for the printer and the general Western template should be, and that's okay. It wasn't like that big of a deal, but going forward I have now changed that to 6.9. Oops. That way I have enough space in the width and the height, and when I go to put that in the final template to get printed, it'll fit much better. I did a couple tests with that, and that's just what will work in Krita. I don't know if that's a setting in Krita I can change with the print size overall, if I can just say, hey, you should have like 3 digits here, not just 2, because it like rounds up or down. If you do 3 digits, so that was kind of like a minor annoyance, I guess. Not even really an annoyance, just a minor thing that I didn't realize until later. But nothing that was a deal breaker. The print, like the boundaries and stuff in the final print itself came out just fine. I'm just like, I want it to be more perfect. Not a deal breaker by any means for the final project, just something I had to keep in mind. So aside from that, I did obviously use the comics manager. I do have a couple of videos on that, on how to like get that started, and I actually have a YouTube short to speed through it in less than a minute if you want to like see how to set up your project within the comics manager. This was actually a game changer because I was able to kind of let me actually switch this out because I don't want you to see anything for book 2. So yeah, this is fine. So what the benefit for this, as I started laying out my skin and thumbnails and saying, okay, here's the thumbnail, I have the idea of what's going to be on that page and test the flow of the story. And I was able to do that with the view page and window. So I could just scroll through and see how the pacing was and just kind of either view it as a single spread or single page versus double spread, and just kind of look at it from there. And that really helped me when I started this process, because when I'm looking at the thumbnails as they are here, it's like, yeah, I can kind of look at them, but I want to see how it would flip. You know, if I'm holding it in my hand, how is the story flowing as I'm reading it? So the comics manager with that view page and window really, really helped with pointing out pacing problems as I built this. So being able to identify those issues before I started doing the final thumbnails and layouts and stuff was really helpful. I did wind up changing a few anyway later on just because I was not happy with some of the layouts, and that's okay. That's like a normal process. It's nothing to do with Krita. That's basically how I got started with doing my comic in Krita. It wasn't too intense. It's just a lot of thinking and sketching and drawing and not overthinking it. In regards to the thumbnails too, a lot of the times like I said, I just used them as a guide for what would be on that page. Layout wise, it didn't stay. Like a lot of these thumbnails have 6 panels, that just didn't stay. That just doesn't look good page by page, you know? So these pages don't really exist anymore. They look totally different, which I'm happier with how they turned out. And I think thumbnail wise, what I probably would do differently is not get so caught up in like how the thumbnail looks, because I started going, oh, this head's not perfect. It doesn't have to be. I need to be more comfortable just doing stick figures. I don't have to flesh the whole thing out. But I also have to remember that every artist is different in their approach to this. I've seen some people that literally do a couple spears and like, this is this character. And I just don't need to overthink it. But that's a me thing. And then what else I would do differently, I think, is because these were pencil and paper, and I don't like to use pencil because I convince myself I can just erase something if I don't like it, which means I'm not putting lines down I'm happy with, because I know I can get rid of it, if that makes sense. It's a mental thing, whatever. I probably would either go back to using pen like I normally do for most stuff, for sketching and things like that, or I would only focus on, let's see, doing a couple different layouts per page, which is probably the better thing that I could do. Like, hey, I know I have these pages done, let me go back and do a couple variations just to make sure this is the layout that I do like. Instead of trying to just push through like 40 pages at once. And that might just be more of an experience thing, like, because it was my first comic, I was way overthinking a lot of this. It's not that it's just, yeah, it's like reading comics and stuff, it's like, oh, this looks good, and then you go to start doing it and you're like, wait a second, do I want this panel here? Does this panel need to be more dynamic? And that's, again, a lot of overthinking on my part. But I think going forward, if I'm stuck, I need to be more open to doing a couple of versions of that page and being okay with it not looking good in each version, just to get the concept. So, yeah. And that's pretty much how I started my comic in Krita. It's from the very beginning. I don't want to make this video too long because I do want this to be like a short series, probably like 3 to 4 videos. The next video will be going over like how I started cleaning up these pages, what I started doing, and I think this is where now I didn't struggle, but a larger file size. I don't know why I made these files so large, but I did. The number of layers I had and what I didn't take advantage of within Krita, which kind of shame on me. So we'll go over that in the next video. But hopefully this series is like fun and entertaining and kind of gives you an idea of some mistakes that I made that you don't have to make because I made them for you. Or maybe the approach might help you, like the thumbnail, scanning them in, or doing them traditionally and then scanning them in and kind of just laying everything out in Krita first and then seeing how that pacing goes. I actually am doing it a little bit differently right now for book 2 in my webcomic, and I'll probably go over that probably towards the end of the series, just to kind of explain why. And yeah. Alright, so that's pretty much it for video 1 of how I approached making a comic within Krita. If you're interested, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next couple of videos in regards to this series, because I'm going to be going over a lot of, like I said, my faults, what I totally didn't do when I should have, and what I did enjoy doing in Krita. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.